I felt like I could and should be able to do it all on my own, but I was just so lonely. You see, I knew that I had really big dreams, and I felt all those big expectations of those big dreams my entire life. My family was my safe place. I come from a family of black sheep musicians that just never really fit the norm. They're always striving for awards, nominations, the next song inspiration, chasing a melody. My strong mama taught me to dream big, to not worry about the bullies and the small town bullshit. I stood out. I was super smart, top of my class in a very small rural school. I loved big words, Beethoven, and I adored cultivating my garden of herbs. In short, public school was a living hell. I never fit in. I was tormented for being a teacher's pet, but I always felt more comfortable around adults that were ready and willing to have mature conversations. Being a kid just never really felt right for me. I was tormented for trying too hard and for being too much of everything except normal. I didn't really get most of my classmates. I feel like I should have been born at 45 years old. When I was in public school, I found out that my very first best friend, when we met, I just felt such a sense of relief that I could finally had someone that could share all of my interests. We were so close for 3 years, and suddenly she became cool. In short, puberty came for her, but not quite for me. And I didn't become cool. I was suddenly uninvited. I found it easier to read a book at recess alone rather than feel unsafe, judged, and too seen by the other girls in my class. I only felt safe when I was at home, playing piano, writing songs, studying. I knew my place, and I knew my role. See, for me, feeling the need to justify my place in the world came up a lot. Like I couldn't be all of me anywhere but home. I was the first in both sides of my family to go to university, and they were all so proud. I became fluent in French. Not only did I like science, I decided that I wanted to be a doctor, and my family were so behind me on this. My super strong mama always told me not to dull my sparkle for anyone or anything, so I didn't. In my mind, fitting in, therefore belonging, meant giving up a part of myself, and that wasn't something I was ready and willing to do. When I met my amazing husband, I was 19. I was cautioned not to let myself get distracted from my bigger goals. But when I met him, very soon it became clear that he was the person that I was supposed to be with. We married very young, and we essentially raised each other. His family became my family, and vice versa. We grew up together. And I wouldn't change that for the world. I achieved my academic goals. We moved to multiple cities. We moved. I got 2 different degrees, all while he worked his ass off so that I could stay in school. I started my medical practice at 25 years old. And you know what? It was never weird. I always felt comfortable in a room of people much older than me, but I really struggled being around my peers. I loved being needed. I loved caring for my patients and really helping them through all those big changes in their life, finding out that they were pregnant, giving birth, getting married, career changes, difficult diagnosis. All the while I was cheering and loving them hard all along. I felt really good in my role. I felt like I had value because I was in that role. And I gave so much of myself to show just how good I could be, how good of a person, how good of a doctor, how good of a leader. And I was feeling really burnt out. See, when I was in medical school, I started to lose a lot of hair. Any of you that know me and have maybe worked with me before, we've talked about this very, very openly. And in my mind, when we start to experience symptoms, it's not an accident. We start to experience symptoms because it's our body's way of saying, hang on, you need to pay attention to this. It's like a gentle tug on the sleeve. And if we don't pay attention, those tugs on our sleeves become slap upsides of the head. And when you are 21 and losing handfuls of hair, well, there's few things that catch your attention more than that. So I continued to lose hair all throughout my 20s because I just kept trying to do more, be the perfect doctor, be a leader, be an entrepreneur, be a woman, be a wife, have a perfect house, cook, can, all the things that we do. And, I reveled in it all the while, trying to hide my bald spots. The thing was, I never really felt safe asking for my own support. Like, I was this doctor, I had achieved all these things, and I would look weak or imperfect if I was truly honest about how exhausted I was becoming. What I didn't tell anybody was how afraid I was to start my family, because I didn't think I could be the kind of mother I knew I wanted to be, all the while supporting everybody in my practice and all the people I felt that depended on me. So I delayed. During that time, my mother and my sister, who I'm so, so close with, moved out of the country to explore their own dreams. And I was so proud of them. And while they were always there if I needed them, I didn't want to lean in too much. I didn't want to burden them. I didn't want to ask for more help because I didn't think that they could take it. I was wrong. And my amazing husband, of course, he's wonderful, but he didn't truly get what it was like and how lonely I felt. I feel like for a lot of men, if they're in sports, if they're in hockey, if they work in a group, they have that built-in community. But for me, I am woefully unathletic. So joining a sports team never really felt right for me. I felt really secure in my role. But it wasn't until we found out that we were pregnant that I really started leaning into my female friendships. There's really nothing like another mama that gets it, that will ask you a very super personal question about how your body's healing, or make sure that you have a batch of something in the fridge to eat when you just cannot figure it out. There's nothing like another woman that just gets it, that has that extra tampon in the purse, that asks how your heart is. And for the first time in my life, I felt the magic of sisterhood. Now more than ever, especially with the current pandemic situation, so many of us are feeling isolated. Many of us are thriving too. It's not all bad. One thing that I've noticed with all of my clients that I've been working with all through our postpartum period is that for so many of us, when we allow space in our life, we open up room for the things that we do want. We've often been so overscheduled, so busy, we volunteered, we've done all the things that we think we should do, and it's suffocating and it's exhausting. But when we open up space for the things that we do want, we have a way of creating and manifesting this. When I heard about the Wild Collective, a phenomenon that has been taking over North America in the last 2 years or so, I knew that this is something that I wanted to do, not only for my own healing, but for my patients and for the amazing women that I get to work with, that I get to see transform. And I believe in this so wholeheartedly, and I cannot wait to share this magic with you. So over the next hour or so, I want to share with you a little bit more about what we are offering. I am so excited to let you in on this not so secret and why this is important to our health, not only for you as individuals, but for our families, for our mental health, especially in our current climate, and honestly, for changing the world. Sound good? So for all of you that are joining right now, there is a chat box. If you have questions, feel free to answer them. There's a Q&A and chat box. I will answer questions towards the end, but please, I would love to see lots of engagement. I would love to see what is going on for you. So we're going to try to make this fun. So this is my mama. She is a musician, and she, at the pinnacle of her career, had myself, and a year and a day later, my younger sister, Callie. She is one of my biggest role models and super, super brave. She's the one that always said, don't dull your sparkle. And for me, I have always had sisterhood. I have my younger sister, Callie, who's this year and a day younger than me, and she's always been with me. So in my case, I often felt that sisterhood wasn't safe because I have this story in the family that, hello everybody, that when I went to go meet my sister and my mom in the hospital, I saw my mom holding this brand new, beautiful newborn baby. And I looked up at her with two great big tears in my eyes, and I must have felt that I was replaced. See, my immature, not even toddler brain took it that there was not enough room for all of us. So it was my job to prove that I belonged there, and I took on that classic older sibling role. Of course, that's not the case, and she is one of my best friends in the entire world. This is me here graduating high school, I believe, with a thick head of hair before all of the expectations and the stress came in. But I worked very, very hard, as many of us do. And this here is when the first time that I moved away from home, right after high school, before university, I spent a summer in Quebec learning French. And this was the first time that I was entirely out of my comfort zone, amongst living with 5 other women and trying to cope in a new province, a entirely different language at an age where we are all very young adults and quite immature in our sisterhood. But it was a beautiful time in our life. And that's when I first started to see the beauty, the positivity, the real juiciness of female friendships, when we're not actively competing, when we're all striving to become better, stronger versions of ourselves. And this is me here with said amazing husband and our baby girl, Eileen. She is 8 months old. And when I found out that I was going to have a daughter, I knew. We didn't find out gender, but I knew. She just had such girl energy. And this is when I started to reach out to other women in my life, and I created that space, and they came forward, and it was magical. And I know for myself, I want my baby girl to have the benefits of a sisterhood, to feel supported, to feel comfortable in her own skin as a woman of the world, and to ask for help and to feel comfortable and to seek out a sisterhood. So that's my little family. Here we are camping on some crown land on Manitoulin Island earlier this summer, watching a stunning Lake Huron sunset. So what we are about: find your pack, reclaim your wild. So what do I mean when I say wild? When we think wild, we think of someone that is breaking free of all these expectations of having to be everything to all people all the time. This is where we challenge that status quo, where we are really deeply connected to what we are about, and we have tapped into that divine feminine power. We are fully inhabiting our skin. And my story that I shared, where I was feeling really uncomfortable taking up space, this is often the perversion of a divine feminine energy, where we don't want to take too much. We don't want to take as much portion at dinner. We want to take up less room in our seat. We want to be a smaller size. but really the divine feminine is about taking up our space and owning it and letting the good things come to us and receiving that. And the more that we rewild, we will talk about this, the more that we truly can become ourselves. And a collective is a human social group. This is where we challenge the status quo of what we think we are about and what we think we need to do or should do. And a collective is all about creating our own culture. It's a movement. A collective is a group where we say, people like us do these things. Women like us feel this way. And we cheer each other on. So ladies, welcome. This is what the Wild Collective is about. So to be wild, this is not about becoming somebody totally different and upending and burning your life up. It is about reclaiming yourself. It is about recognizing who you truly are, what your power is, what your gifts are, what it is that you truly know with a capital N, capital K. Transform your pain and turning it into your legacy. We always say that your story matters. We all have scars from dysfunctional relationships and early traumas. Even if we had wonderful parents and have fantastic partners, we all have these scars, and this strengthens us if we can come at it from a place of healing. So the wild-ish woman by nature is really intense and talented. And so many of the creative women that I work with feel like they are too much for the box that they're being placed in. They feel like they're too intense for their job at work. They feel like they need to be quiet for their in-laws. They feel like they need to be made a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to handle. So we are going to be talking about this. If any of this is resonating with you, in our chat box right here, what we're going to do is just drop in the link to sign up. So this sales is going to be opening up right now. If this resonates with you, I would love to have you, but we're going to carry on. So just before we carry on, I'm going to let you know that we have up to $3,500 of additional bonuses in store for you if you sign up by midnight tonight. So the link here is in the chat box. Thank you so much, Erin. So who here has heard of this idea of the mistaken zygote? If any of you are here, let me say yes or heck yes or WTF in the chat box. Okay. So this mistaken zygote, okay, heck yes, Erin knows what this is about. Mistaken zygote is this phenomenon of assuming that as a zygote, it's like a fertilized embryo, that when the baby fairy decided to drop off and assign all these babies to all of their families, that she maybe placed you with the wrong family. Maybe you belonged 3 miles up the road. If you ever grew up in a family where you just don't feel like you quite fit in, maybe they're a family that just really loves watching TV. They're like TV couch potatoes, and they love talking about the price of gas and whether it went up and down and the deals and all these things, and you just felt itchy. You just did not quite fit in. If you are a mistaken zygote, your family maybe thinks that you are an alien. Maybe you've grown up thinking, why the hell am I just so different? Why can't I be quiet? Why can't I just be normal? Why was I born into this very strange family? And often this sets up a situation called cognitive dissonance, where we want one thing, but it doesn't really jive with us, so we go and do something different. We want to be good. We want to fit in. Maybe we've had challenging relationships with females in our family. We really want to fit in and do the things that please them, but it doesn't feel right. So we're always just kind of out of harmony. We're always just kind of out of step. Really, what we all want is love. We all want to fit in. We all want peace. And if this is you, you're born as a mistaken zygote, it always feels uncomfortable. Does this sound like anybody? Yeah. Yeah, it's common. See, in my case, my family was my safe place. We were all black sheeps. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're getting a heck of a lot of yeses in here. My family was my safe place. It was when I went out into the world amongst all the normal rural folk that I felt like a freak, that I felt too much, that I felt like my interests were too weird, too out there, too niche, too just not normal for a kid. And I really found it difficult. And if you are a mistaken zygote, it's just going to be difficult trying to fit in to that round peg hole when you are a square block. Yeah, absolutely. There are so many of us that feel this way. So let's dive into this a little bit more. So the feral woman, this I feel like a lot of us can identify with. A feral woman is someone that was wild and then domesticated and then starts to understand who she is again, reverting to that natural untamed state. We know this by studying zoo animals like pandas or gorillas, for example. White rhinos, they are endangered. When they're overly domesticated, their natural instincts are deadened. They all often have fertility issues. They don't thrive. They need a lot of support having their babies. And then their mothering instincts are just so altered and so interfered with that they really don't have these natural cycles and protective systems. They're no longer wary and alert. They're docile when a zoo handler comes in and just tries to like handle their babies. They accept it, which is so anti-nature. So the feral woman like this, she recognizes that she's out of step, but she no longer trusts her own instincts because she hasn't had to rely on it, because we've been told to be good. We've been told to be quiet. We've been told to go to school. We've been told all of these things, often by well-meaning people that love us, but maybe don't quite get us. So when this has been our state, we end up being very easily tempted by relationships that are not sustaining, by relationships that are not fueling, by people, by business ventures and jobs that kill our soul, but man, they look good on paper. Man, it looks good when we are volunteering for all of these things and our kids are in 3 different extracurricular activities. It looks good, but if we end up feeling like our souls are starving and we're a little bit dead inside, it's not good for anybody, least of all you, and definitely not for your families. And it is really the world. It is our community that ends up suffering when you are not fully occupying yourself. And this is often most difficult for creative women. If you have that drive to create, if you are an artist, if you paint, if you are a musician, if you are somebody that tends flowers, if you are a nurturer and you are driven to create, you are more than likely a feral woman. This is your instincts finding and seeking a way out. It's kind of like a river that's been dammed up. Eventually, if enough pressure builds up, we're going to find a leak, and that is your creativity. So I love it when I see friends and women around me start to launch their own side hustles, start to launch their own businesses. They paint, they create, they come up with songs. They do the little things that make their soul happy, because that is how the light gets in. So this is what a circle should look like. I don't mean preschool draw a circle. This is what a circle of women should look like. It should look like nourishing snacks. It should look like some tea or some coffee and probably some chocolate, and people that are holding space for one another. So this is an example of what the Wild Collective has looked like in past. Now, of course, things have changed a little bit, so we're going to talk about it. In the past year, we have moved online, which I think is fantastic for so many of us, because as our lives have changed intensely, maybe we are less scheduled and we can create some space. Or if we have young families at home, it becomes a little bit more difficult to get out. So connecting virtually is fantastic, and we really don't lose that connection. As if we were in person, we can actually show up in better ways for each other when it doesn't have to be a whole thing to get somewhere. I am loving this chat box. This is amazing. Keep it coming, ladies. Where you meet your power so that you can become it. In other words, what this is about is surrounding yourself with like-minded women that truly frigging get it. If we want to become more of ourselves, we need to be around people that are truly unapologetically themselves. So this is from Dr. Michelle Paris, naturopathic doctor in Burlington. She is the creator of the Wild Collective, formerly known as the Rebel Tribe. So who am I? Why am I talking about this? I am a recovering type A people pleaser, and I shared my story with you, and it was frigging exhausting. And then I just kind of started to say, screw it or fuck it, because we can't be everything to all people. It doesn't work. Our health suffers. We get weird periods. We get a breast lump. We start to lose our hair. We start to get really irritated, and we start to consider medications that may or may not be a good fit for us. Maybe we wonder if it's just you. Maybe we wonder if it's just me that's not fitting in and if I just can't keep up. So I started to say, fuck it. I am intensely curious. I'm a nerd. I'm a black sheep in a wild family of musicians, and I'm an experimenter and a connector. I like to take things apart and see how they go back together. I like to see what happens if we add this and this and what kind of recipe it turns out to. And I have a really difficult time following a recipe to a T, because I always think there's a better way that things can happen. I always think there's a better way that we can do healthcare, and this is why we're here. I'm a new mom of a gorgeous 8-month-old baby girl, and I am a passionate naturopathic doctor. In my practice, I have been working with women for over 9 years by now, focusing on women's health, PMS, perimenopause, pregnancy, these hormonal bottlenecks and transitions through our life that really bring to a head what is going on below the surface for us. And I love talking crappy digestion. So if you or someone you know has diarrhea and constipation and bloating, I'm your woman. This is what I do. But aside from that, I truly believe that we, each of us, men and women, but we're talking women today, we are wild and wise beings, and we crave, no, we need community to thrive. And when we discover our own power by getting to know other women, by being a privy to what their struggles and what their strengths are, we get clear on our own story. We get clear on our own purpose. So, if we're trying to be good, orderly, and compliant in the face of inner or outer peril, or in order to hide a critical psychic or real life situation, this desouls us. It cuts us down from knowing. It undermines and cuts our ability to act. Who does this resonate with? Raise your hands. Type an F yes in the chat box. Yes, we are all over this. So there's another way of saying this. There's another quote maybe you've heard that says, "It is no measure of success to be functioning well in an ill society," or something to that effect. I probably just changed it a bit. It is no measure of success to be thriving well in a sick society. And so many of us already have learned this over the last couple of months, where we've maybe changed our schedule. We've cut additional obligations that needn't be there, that drain our souls. We've cut down some of the extras so that we could really focus in on what it is that makes us tick, that makes us feel alive. And if we're continuing to run full speed ahead without that pause, that time for reflection, we never really know ourselves, and we end up autopiloting and then saying, what happened the last 15 years? What happened to me? Where did I go? And that's usually when women show up in my office. So this is my little tiny family here. We are sitting in our garden. We have about a 1/4 acre here in Stratford, where we grow pretty much almost all the vegetables that we eat here. And my little wild child here is what has really put the fire under my ass these last few months. Because again, I know that it's important for her to have a sisterhood, and it's important for her to watch her mama be very strong and to stand up and to claim what makes sense, to claim what it is that I need, and to help her have the language to claim what it is that she needs as well. And that it is not a weakness to ask for people. It is not a weakness to let people in. And this is something that I struggled with, and something that I see so many of the women that I work with come in with. Within each of us, there's a wild and natural creature, a powerful force filled with good instincts, passionate creativity, and ageless knowing. Her name is Wild Woman. And she is an endangered species. This is from the book Women Who Run with Wolves. This is a really fascinating, albeit very intellectual read about the de-wilding of women in our society. And we've all met these women. How many of you are Grey's Anatomy fans? Yeah, Natalie, you're reading this. Boss, 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 boss. So Grey's Anatomy, this was my binge watch right after I had baby girl before the pandemic hit. And there is this one character named Catherine Avery. She is a boss. Also before there was, oh, what was her name? She was the OBGYN fertility specialist. These women are bosses. We're laughing. Yeah, we all know these women. We see them on TV. We're like, they dress really well. They don't dress like men. They dress like very voluptuous, very womanly. They wear the awesome heels if that is their thing. They have the great hair and the great lipstick, and they don't take shit from anybody. They just do what they do. They have no trouble asking for what it is that they want, and they're unapologetic, and they are deeply kind and empathetic. This is a wild woman. This is what we are talking about. I love all the Grey's Anatomy fans here. That inspired me to follow medicine and then inspired me to follow a slightly different direction later on. So when wild women speak, we listen. She does not shout to be heard. She does not fake it. She simply can't. She does not please others to gain false pleasure. She does not shy from pain. That's where her warrior goddess grows. She sways her hips to create feminine power. It is she that needs to be at the table. It is she that needs to be let out. This is what we are talking about tonight. We are talking about setting a place for you at the virtual table, where you are welcome, where you are fully you, where you are there to help support other women and they you during a very strange year, but to set you up for the next phase of our life, because there is no going back to our previous normal. It wasn't working. It was broken. We are not. This is what the Wild Collective is all about. Restoring the magic, restoring the safety, restoring the mystery and the juiciness to circles of women in our life. So what the heck is the Wild Collective? The Wild Collective is all about sisterhood and self-care. Now, self-care is such a buzzword. We can stare at our Instagram feeds and we see all these things about lovely blush pink manicure jobs and beautiful bubble baths and essential oils, and it is all so lovely and it can be that, yes, but self-care is so much more than that. Self-care is about knowing you. Self-care is about drawing a frigging line in the sand and saying, this is what I need to be well. Self-care is not just bubble baths, although those are pretty freaking great. Self-care is saying, this is what I deserve to function if I am going to be fully me. So the Wild Collective is a wonderful, warm, juicy sisterhood paired with self-care. What we are about is a curriculum of women's health. So what I am most passionate about is teaching women the things that they wish they had known, the things that we should have learned in grade 4, 5, 9, 12 health class, the things that we should have learned even if we are in the healthcare field ourselves. You see, so often when we seek help from another practitioner, it's because we've ignored those little sleeve tugging symptoms. We've ignored that we're feeling tired all the time. We've ignored that, suddenly our pants aren't fitting right, or that we have this little lump that we maybe should do something about, but we're worried about what the answer is, so we just keep doing it and we don't want to bother anybody. And usually when that is the case, it takes a while to even show up at a physician's office. And they are so busy. They've got so much that they're taking care of. They're so busy. And we only have so much time. Even with my private practice, I dive really deep with my women. I really want to make sure that they know everything that they need to know to take care of their health. We're not just talking about, here's how to manage my disease. Here's what we do about my diagnosis. We are going so much deeper than that. The whole point is, here is how I take care of the body and of the soul that I was granted, that I was given. Here's what I do to facilitate health and to be that shining example that other women that are babies are looking at, so that they too can know that it is good and right and required of them to take good care of themselves as well, instead of self-medicating with shitty TV, although Grey's Anatomy and Outlander are outside of that, obviously. That it is our job to not eat our feelings. It is our job to rest when we need it. It is our job to have those difficult conversations. And our women's health curriculum, we tackle that. We go so deep on this. But we are also going into all those little things that we wish we knew. And we're going to share our curriculum in just a second. But the real magic of this is through learning about our health, through learning about the things that we didn't know, we start to learn how we function. We start to learn who we really are when we are not bogged down by feeling crappy all the time. So this is what the Wild Collective is about. We make friendships. We cultivate a health collective. And this is really cool because so often we see women, and maybe this is you, where maybe I want to try going gluten-free, but my family doesn't get it. Or I want to try doing this like affirmation thing, but my boyfriend thinks it's silly. Or, you know, all my friends, we get together and I love the sisterhood, but we drink a lot of wine and I always feel really terrible afterwards, but I don't want to give up the sisterhood. It's really difficult to make these positive changes in our health if we're not feeling well. And if we don't have other women around doing the same thing and striving and growing at the same time. So this is what we are about, is being a group of like-minded women that really get it, that are really here. So here's what we've learned about the Wild Collective so far. Is this exciting? I'm pretty excited. I've got happy stress blotches just talking about this. So yeah, we eat our feelings. This is the root of obesity. It's often our body's way of trying to protect us and insulate us from another reality that we don't want to deal with. So many of us just feel tired of feeling shitty all the time. And it's not just a physical thing, it's a soul thing. We need magic. And this is what we are all about here. The Wild Collective is about connecting women to themselves and each other. This is our first and foremost mission. Circles. So the goal of this is not competition. This is not the immature sisterhood of growing up. There's no competition amongst wild women because we are too damn wild and too damn in love with the things that we are doing ourselves to be caught up in this tiny, gross little space of envy. As wild women, we dance together and we allow the good to flow abundantly around us all. So here's what we know about community health and why this is relevant right now. Why this is not self-indulgent, this is self-preservation. Social isolation is the #1 cause of all-cause mortality, i.e. more than smoking, alcohol consumption, and poor nutrition. If you are lonely and isolated, and I think we can all identify with this right now, you are doing worse for yourself than binge drinking, smoking, and eating like shit. And this is so anti how we are designed to be. As women, we historically spent so much time together, collaborating, gathering food together, making things, taking care of each other's babies, nursing each other's babies even, that we knew where we fit in the social fabric. We were connected. Elders and wisdom was celebrated, and storytelling and sharing our experiences was very important. This is how we learned about how to function in the world. This is how we learned how to take care of each other and to take care of our babies. And I would hazard a guess to say postpartum health, postpartum anxiety, and depression were much better. We don't have to do all of it alone. We really were never meant to. And this is the thing. So many of us, if we were growing up with our mother's version of feminism, and I have a fantastic mother. I'm not calling out my mother specifically. She's here listening and cheering me on. We grew up with this idea that we can be it all, we can do it all, we can have the man's job, but we're also going to go home and cook the bacon too. So we had this idea that we have to do it all. Just because we could doesn't mean that we should. And this is where so many of us get stuck. We drive, we push, we strive, we get stuck in this almost very masculine way of functioning where we achieve and we do and we get up and we cut our own sleep and we stop really caring for ourselves. And then we wonder why we have fertility challenges. We wonder why we don't fall into the role of being mothers naturally. We wonder why we start to lose our hair or our thyroid goes off when we can't speak our truth. We wonder why we don't like how we show up in the world. We don't like the women that we become because we're trying to become all the things. We were never meant to. This is what it's about. Sometimes you do need to burn your life down. Sometimes you just need to light a little fire. So we are all about becoming the fire. Gabby says, this reminds me of Christiane Northrup. Yes, absolutely. Right now, I am in the midst of reading Kate Northrup's book, Do Less, and I'm a big fan of Christiane Northrup. I am so glad that we are all in this together here. So what the research in community health is telling us, loneliness and weak social connections are associated with a reduction in lifespan, kind of like you're smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And it's even worse than if you are obese. So this collectively will shorten your lifespan by about 8 years. And this is not just a couple of people that can't cope. This is up to 60% of older Americans. And I can only assume the data is similar here in Canada, where if we're lonely, we are at much higher risk of poor health because we are lonely. And loneliness, we know how overweight as a general class we are. Loneliness is as prevalent as obesity. And we've made such wonderful strides in the last few years about body positivity, shutting down fat shaming, health at any size. And it's a beautiful, accepting movement. But the loneliness, especially the loneliness that has been hyper magnified over the last few months, it's killing us. And the more isolated we are, the less happy we are. And our brains straight up do not function as well. And when our brain function isn't as good, we don't take good care of ourselves. We also know that our health at 50, our social health at 50 predicts our status at around 80 years of life too. I mean, this is big. We are all living longer as a society. Many of us are taking care of older generations and isolating ourselves because they're isolated. And I think we maybe want to be looking at a different way. Social stress is also another leading factor here. This can be tension with work or with a partner, agoraphobia, being a highly sensitive individual. This is all really challenging on our nervous system and affects how our body processes cortisol. And this is related to our mortality. One really cool area that we don't often talk about is the study of epigenetics. So where literally we may have a genetic predisposition to, for example, breast cancer or cardiovascular disease or dementia or liver spots or whatever, but it is the exposure of our genetics to our environment and our social environment that really lead us towards having these tendencies or protect us. So we often have the expression in functional medicine that genes load the gun, but it's our environment, our lifestyle that pulls the trigger. So community health, social isolation, these are all things that are not just nice to have. This is powerful medicine. So we are really wired for connection. This is how our brain is actually working. We're wired to be connecting with people. But the funny and odd thing is, and we caught this in my story too, is that we have neural systems in our brain that decide what makes sense connecting with, that handle social and non-social reasoning. And when we are very stressed out about something, the more we are focused on that thing, the more likely we are to alienate ourselves and pull away from others that would want to help us. But our brains are built to ensure that we continue to hold these beliefs and values of those around us. So it's a real double-edged sword. We often see this, there's a great cartoon floating around with mothers, young families, about how we should have asked, where we should ask for things. We should ask for someone to pick up the kids or for someone to help with dinner when they come over to visit, or they should have asked, but we don't ask. We don't ask because we don't want to burden somebody. So we alienate ourselves and we bear that stress. We eat that stress. It turns into something nasty. And the more stressed we are, the less likely we are to then reach out to other people for help, even though everybody is constantly asking, especially with the new baby, what can I do to help? We don't take them up on it. But the people that do come to our help, the people that are around us, really then do affect what we think and what we believe. It kind of reaffirms what we know about the world. So which brings us to our next thing. Our habits are really contagious. The people that we surround us with are one of the best determining factors for our health. And if we are surrounded by people that are living in a smaller mindset, maybe they're just not ready, or they have unhealthy habits, or they're working through their own stuff, it's going to affect us. We know that this loneliness, this negativity, this mindset, this limiting belief system can be just as contagious as a cold. And we know how on top of viruses we all are right now. But I think we need to be more on top of connection. Our social networks have this massive ripple effect. The more that we're around positive people that build us up, we spread that happiness. We smile at people in the grocery store, if we could see our faces now. We become more generous and loving, and this ripples out, and it's extraordinary. If you have one very happy person in your life, it actually expands your happiness baseline by 15%. And more happiness you have in your life, it just incrementally increases. But on the contrast, if you have somebody that's really kind of miserable in your life, but you love them, so they're around, it decreases your baseline happiness, and it chinks away at your happiness the more and more you have unhappy people around. Now, this is obviously not to say abandon everybody that doesn't fuel you, but it means that we then actually have to cultivate actively the kind of influence that we want in our life, because our brain will attach to whatever we see and think that that is truth with a capital T. So what does loneliness do to our health? Well, it certainly is not great for our mental health. The lonelier we are, the more likely we are to be anxious, depressed, and have an increased suicide risk. We need to be connected. When we are lonely, we actually have an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. We know this, there's been research on this, that within a couple of months or a year, I believe, of somebody having a cardiovascular event, so a heart attack, we know that there is a massively increased risk of depression. So when someone's saying, my heart is breaking, it's not just bullshit. It is a way that our body is dealing with grief. So we have to be taking care of our physical health because there are emotional and spiritual consequences. This impacts our cognitive health. If we are watching TV and we're not letting the fresh air physically in, we're not letting fresh influences in, it's going to change the way that your brain is wired. We also know there's an association with your cancer morbidity, so sickness and mortality risk. So there's a connection looking at studying ovarian cancer, where women that had good, strong social connections had 27% better clinical outcomes. This is massive. I mean, many medications that we are looking at, so for example, for antidepressants, we're looking at 10% better improvement in symptoms. 27% improvement in a clinical outcome for something that can be very deadly is incredible. It's impactful. So social attachment is associated with a massive survival advantage for patients with ovarian cancer. And in my practice with the women that I work with one-on-one, we are always screening for, what's your social life like? How do you have support? What do you do when you've had a shit day? Who do you reach out to? Do you have good people in your life? This is massive, not just when we're having kind of an end of days diagnosis like this, but as our daily functioning, because by the time we get a cancer diagnosis, there's been more than a few sleeve tugging symptoms along the way. So social relationships and health. Is this interesting, guys? Because I'm like just blown away. I devour the research on this stuff, and I'm hoping that you guys are just as into it as I am. If somebody feels and perceives that they're isolated, and right now I am thinking of a lot of new moms like myself that have given birth just before or during a pandemic, where our idea of what we think this postpartum period will look like is very, very different. We don't have the moms groups in person that we thought we would, or we're not reaching out to the people. even if they're there. If we feel like we're isolated, even if we're not, it impairs our executive functioning. So like when you go to the kitchen and you like open it up and you find a pair of socks, it's like that executive functioning, like the logicalness of our brain just doesn't work if we are feeling isolated. Because historically speaking, when we were all living on our own in small little tribes, if we were not accepted, if we did not belong, we had a much lower chance of survival. So it makes sense that we crave to belong, but if we're not feeling that we're belonging, like everything about us is on high alert. We're not going to sleep well. We're not going to be mentally fit, and our physical well-being will like suddenly going to the gym's not our huge priority if we're like, it might be a cold, hard winter and I'm alone. So collectively, if we feel that we're isolated, even if we have people that we're not reaching out to, it contributes to higher rates of morbidity. So like overall feeling shitty, and mortality in lonely older adults. And we had this happen in my family. My papa, whom I'm very close with, actually passed away in a long-term care facility this spring. And he's one of the most social human beings that I've ever met. So cheerful, and just that loneliness it's a killer. So I feel it. We all feel it. But especially if you have young people in your life or new moms in your life, this is where we really want to be reaching out as women to check in on them. And I see here that we've had Lily, 2 beautiful twins born in March. What a blessing. It's a full year for a lot of us. It's a full year for a lot of us, but we do want to be checking in on each other now more than ever. So while we all have scars, while we can all be very worried about what this means if we're maybe not in an ideal living situation, this is not meant to scare us. It's meant to help us be aware and start to claim our story. If we can own our story, then we can write that ending. So now that we know what the effect of loneliness is like, now that we know that we all have scars, and maybe all of us feel like we're mistaken zygotes, that we're born into the wrong family or the wrong time period, or we just don't have people that get us just yet. Now that we are aware, we can start to seek for what it is that we do need. And this is from Brene Brown. If you're familiar with Brene Brown, she's freaking fantastic. I recommend like every single book that she's read or written. So about circles, I mentioned circles many times. Circles energetically are really quite cool, but where this fits in with what we are talking about is when we gather in a circle, either electronically or physically, this works really well. We can start to connect with the feminine. We have different energies around us, masculine, feminine, but we can really start to get more of a female vibe. And this happens, like if you're ever around a bunch of aunts and sisters and women, there's a different feel than if there's one guy there. And we love our men, but it's just very different and juicy and a different kind of flow and function to it when we're around other women. And when we do that, when we see other women succeeding and doing well and owning their own power, it's inspiring. Like we want to just stand back and watch and see what these sisters are doing, because it lights that fire within us. It's so inspiring to see someone owning their stuff, because it just makes it even more possible for us to do our thing. When we watch other women, we start to reclaim our own wild, because we start to remember what it is that we lost, what it is that we were about before the world started to mess us up, and before we were told what we were supposed to be. And when we are wild, sometimes we're going to make missteps. When we are wild, we're going to do things that are maybe not as smooth and delicate or smooth and graceful as we would otherwise be. So when we're in a circle of women regularly mating and supporting each other, we get to be privy to their weakness. We get to share in their vulnerability. We get to cheer on their successes and their losses. We support them and we hold them. And through that, we start to regain our compassion for ourselves and for other women. So often when we are isolated, we become numb. We become numb to looking at our Facebook feeds. We become numb to watching the news. We just become numb to things because we can't take it all in, because it hurts, because we're not living our truth. But when we see the bravery of another woman standing up and saying, this is me, this is what I'm struggling with, I need help, it opens the light up. It opens us up to doing the same for ourselves. And we can learn so much from what other people are doing. One of my favorite acupuncture professors when I was a student was saying, you know, as a student, you are really young and you maybe haven't had a whole lot of living, but the best thing that you can do is get to know other people and live through their stories. Feel what they are feeling with boundaries, but feel it and learn. And I've carried that with me. And in my work, I have the real privilege of getting to know literally thousands of women at this point and seeing their journeys. And it is nothing short of frigging inspiring. And what I'm excited about is the empowered healthcare experience. I believe that we need so much more to be well than 10-minute visits in and out of an office. And that's what I do. I spend 90 minutes, half an hour. I spend a lot of time with my clients, but I also recognize that not everybody is ready for that. That's not accessible for everybody. When we learn as a group, the energy is multiplied tenfold than what we are one-on-one. And this is where circles really come in. This is magic. So the intention of our community is really to create a supportive community of like-minded women. We are about helping each other realize the strength of collaboration and wisdom in a community-based setting. So this is not one-on-one treatment where you are the focus. This is about learning together and growing together. And more importantly, what we are focusing on is not just healthcare generic. We are learning about our health, our physiology, our natural rhythms as females, or anyone that is identifying as females, I should clarify. We are about cultivating your intuition through getting to know your own physiology. And for physiology, if this is a new term to you, this is the study of how the body works. It's not anatomy, which is structure. It is how we work, how we flow, how we function. And through getting to know ourselves, we are about having purpose-filled living, getting together intentionally, setting goals intentionally, feeling what we're feeling intentionally, and growing intentionally. So who is this for? Really, the short answer is anybody. But really who this is going to most benefit is anybody that's struggling with anxiety, depression, loneliness, or maybe brain fog. Anybody that has cardiovascular disease or a broken heart. This is going to be beneficial for anybody that just really wants social connection, to be involved with other people. Maybe you are not sick enough to feel like you warrant one-on-one care with somebody beyond a regular checkup, but you're interested in cultivating your health and growing your health. This is exactly what the Wild Collective is about. And more importantly, this is for women who crave more meaning and more fulfillment in their life and a sense of purpose. This is for you if you have a really curious mind and a wild heart. Sound cool? The Wild Collective is about being unstoppable. Not because you don't have failures or doubts. It's not because you're not perfect. It's about continuing on and striving forward, even despite them. This is actually about mothering ourselves. This is about being a parent to yourself. And sometimes when our kids are just spiraling out and you know they're tired and they're just flailing and they're not going to sleep, but you know that's what they need, we need to parent them and put them down to rest. This is about parenting and mothering ourselves, giving us what we need, our soul, putting our soul to rest by giving us that magic that we need to feel inspired. So here is what we are talking about. We are a 10-month women's health curriculum. And we cover everything. We literally cover everything. And for me to go through this with any of my clients, this is going to take years at the depth that we are doing. I mean, it's not financially sustainable for many. And for those that are, I love this, but we just get so much magic out of a group dynamic. We get so much magic out of learning from each other. So shall we dive into it? Can I get another F yes if this is what we're interested in this? Yeah, okay, awesome. Loving it. So our first module is all about our menstrual cycle. So this is frigging fantastic. So much of what we learn in health class is you have a period, it's going to suck, use a pad or a tampon, also don't get pregnant. And that's kind of where it stops. But our teachers didn't know any better. If they did, they would teach us. I'm not going to leave it to some male politician to tell me what in my curriculum for my daughter is relevant. It's a really sad excuse for education. We miss so much of the magic. When we can start to tune in into our monthly hormonal rhythm, i.e. what's going on with our menstrual cycle, there is so much going on. We are so beautifully and elegantly designed. This is more than just an app saying you're going to bleed, pack some tampons or a Diva cup if you're progressive, or your Thinx underwear or whatever. This is what is going on and how to best harness your energy at different parts of your menstrual cycle. This is about understanding what's going on with PMS. This is about what's going on when your body's feeling off, at those hormonal transitions. So often we talk about menopause. And often when I work with women, I'm saying this is not going to be your mother's menopause. We have other options. Menopause is when we stop having a period for 12 months. Perimenopause gets far less attention and is far more relevant. Perimenopause is that 5 to 10 years before you've stopped having a period. So for many of us, that starts in our 40s. Sometimes that's even our late 30s. And what's happening at these hormonal transitions is there's often so many other health issues going on that come to a head, and we blame it on our hormones. But because our hormones are changing, everything else goes out of whack. We're going to talk about the construct of the red tent and why we maybe need to consider bringing this back. We're going to talk about how to nourish your body at different parts of your cycle to balance your hormones yourself. We're going to talk about some functional testing, not just blood work, but how to interpret them and the ones that you might want to consider to understand where you're at. And this is going to be relevant whether or not you actually have a uterus, whether or not you are still getting a menstrual cycle. We all still cycle. And this is something that we can tap into at any point in our life as female. This is really exciting stuff and actually makes you far more in flow. Life just comes a little bit easier when you're working in flow. And really, we're talking about how your menstrual cycle is your superpower. So, detoxification. This is our second module. We're going to talk about how our body does this ourselves, when and why you might want additional support, but specifically how to eat in a way that supports your body doing what it's designed to. We're going to talk about the role of our environment and how the things that we do change our genes and can alter, increase, or decrease our susceptibility to the scary things. And most importantly, we're going to talk about emotional detoxification. What can we get rid of to help us function better? We're going to talk about our digestion. So this is my favorite, how we break down the food that we eat, how to optimize this, what the heck is going on. If you have weird digestive issues, this is my jam. We talk about our microbiome, so that all the good and bad bacteria that help us function and how to optimize that. Different testing options that we can look at and what they mean for you. And energetically, listening to your gut. Yeah, Erin's saying like a dumpster fire. A lot of these symptoms that we get are like dumpster fires, and digestive system is also the place that many of us start to manifest symptoms like bloating or weird bowel movement issues because we can't ignore it. We have to deal with the dumpster fire. We talk about my thyroid, so the female triad, so how your brain, ovaries, thyroid, adrenal glands all connect and work to keep you functioning. We talk about tests, ways to look at it, how to track your own body temperature to monitor your thyroid, the energetic connection with our fifth chakra, ways that we can treat this conventionally, but also in a more holistic manner, foods, of course, and energetically what that means with connecting with your truth. We talk about my stress, something that is going to be relevant to all of us, and our stress hormone cortisol, how that changes throughout the day, testing options to address it, how chronic stress affects our body, why we gain weight and where and what that means, and how your body's trying to protect you, and how to cope with stress. We talk about my breasts and vagina. Actually, this is going to be more correctly called vulva, but it's still not common knowledge, unfortunately. We're going to talk about the anatomy of each, what's actually going on, how to do a proper breast exam. As most physicians have moved away from teaching women how to do self-breast examinations, and it's no longer usually part of a physical exam. But we see so many women that say, I've got a lump and I'm really concerned. Is it normal? And I firmly believe that we should know our own selves. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about pap tests and how to care for yourself beyond just don't get disease. We're going to talk about how to feed yourself well and how to use your lifestyle to be your tool, because sexual health here goes so much more beyond mammograms and paps. It gets so much more exciting than this. We're going to talk about my brain and mood. So anxiety, depression, how your brain connects with your gut. And I know we've all had this experience where maybe we're about to give a speech like I'm doing today, and suddenly you got to go to the bathroom. So there's a way of connecting your brain and your gut in such a way that you don't have the nervous poops. We talk about this. We talk about mindfulness as a powerful tool and gratitude to hack your brain for better outcomes in your life. We talk about cognitive decline and type 3 diabetes. I bet you didn't know that this is actually the new term for Alzheimer's disease. And we talk about food to support your brain and your mental health. On that note, we talk about blood sugar regulation. So the role of protein, especially for women, especially at different times in our menstrual cycle. We discuss several different ways of eating and fasting and how powerful these tools can be when used from a place of love, when used from a place of nourishing your body. So often when we start to adapt a diet, it is from a place of, I need to restrict and make myself smaller, and I don't deserve these things because I suddenly got too fat. And that is so anti-sisterhood. What we want to do is ultimately have you all eating in a way that feels so good to your body, that nourishes you and brings you joy. So this is what we're going to talk about. And we're going to cap it all off with learning about our divine feminine. Nothing about this is anti-male. All this is celebrating a female energy. This is about knowing how your body works and to learn how to trust your body so that you can advocate for yourselves and then advocate for your family and your children and your daughters and other women that maybe don't have this information. I firmly believe that the doctor of the future is you, and that by becoming empowered and educated, you know yourself better than anyone else, and you're going to have that language to articulate what's going on when and if you decide to work with other healthcare providers. This is about getting to know who you are, and that is your superpower. So the Wild Collective is about regaining lost instinct and healing injured instinct, and it's truly available to all of you. It returns when we start to pay close attention through listening and looking and sensing the world around us. And then we act as we see others acting, efficiently, effectively, and soulfully. So with a community, with a collective of other women, we have the opportunity to observe other women who have instincts that are retraining their instincts and putting them back intact. And that is central to our own reclaiming of our instincts. This is about mothering ourselves. So this is me and baby girl after we went bushwhacking through Crownland and Manitoulin with a baby on my back staring at Lake Huron. This is what I want for my daughter. To have a wild soul and a kind heart, to know what she's worth, to unapologetically go for it. This is what I believe is possible for all of us. And I have a seat at the table for all of you if you are ready. I believe in this transformation. I believe in this so much. And I believe that when we are well, we can change the world. So this is what this will look like. What we do. Practical details for all those questioners out there. We meet monthly online to learn about each of these modules, and we're gathering online to learn and to connect. And between these sessions, we're going to be connecting and supporting each other with regular check-ins and monthly goals so that we can really take stock and track of our health to get better. We're about sharing and listening and learning from each other and obtaining wisdom. And we're partnering you up for added support and connection so that when you go back to your life, you have that little extra edge. You have that insight. You have that juicy bit of information that you can share with your friends and your colleagues. And you can know that extra thing that they wish they knew too. That is what we are doing. So we are meeting monthly, and this is going to be based on my ovulation. And I'm going to tell you at our first module why we are doing this. And we're going to be meeting at 7 to 9 o'clock. Our dates are flexible, but right now we are slated to start for Wednesday, September 30th at 7 o'clock online. Here's what we're looking at. 20 hours with a naturopathic doctor like myself, one-on-one, to get all of your questions answered, to make sure that you feel really comfortable and empowered with what you know, and to transform your health would be about $5,000. Seriously. And most of our insurance doesn't cover nearly that, so we invest out of pocket. The cost of this program is honestly a steal. It's going to be $497 upfront, and if you sign up by midnight today, you are going to get access to close to $3,500 of extra bonuses. We also have a monthly pay option of $55. To put this in perspective, I know we have some pretty fantastic coffee shops here in Stratford. And the average person, and I worked above one of the great ones, the average person pays about $4 for an Americano or a latte on the go every day that we toss. And this health transformation is going to cost $1.50, $1.60 a day. And I really think you are worth more than the cost of a latte. This is a steal. So with our program, you're going to have lifetime access to everything, all the PowerPoint presentations, handouts, and activities. We are going to record everything that we do, and we're going to upload it to our Facebook group so you can access it if you have to miss a session. We're going to email you all your dates and times in a week or so once we settle our schedule. They will not always necessarily be Wednesday nights. And if you have some fabulous women in your life that want to improve their health, that you're just thinking, oh my God, this would be so much fun, this would be so great for them, they need to learn this stuff, please sign up. Please share this. Health should be fun. The big thing here is that we are really about being real. It's about being honest and showing up powerfully and intentionally for each other. We're about this transformation and this sisterhood for the soul. A real sisterhood should feel like soul food. You should leave feeling so much better with that little lift in your spirit that carries you through the next week. You should look forward to geekily getting into your homework, to understanding something about your body that you never knew for the last 30 years of living in it. You should be really giddy about learning more about yourself than anybody else. And this is what we are offering. And if we sign up by midnight, we've got some pretty cool things for you. First off, I'm going to offer, for anyone that signs up before midnight, a session with me. This is valued at $110 in my private practice, where we are one-on-one going to sit down virtually to talk about your health goals and make sure that if there are any dumpster fires, as lovely Erin here commented, we're going to put out the dumpster fires so that you can really focus on what is going on for you. Number two, I have a very dear friend and relationship coach guru. She is fantastic. This woman was all over Global and CTV during the pandemic. She is offering a 4-part relationship boot camp that's going to be starting late September, early October. You can watch it on demand. And she's also doing a 2-hour assertiveness masterclass. Her name's Dr. Shyamala Kiru. And if you were to factor in her hourly rate and what she would charge her private practice clients for this is $1,500. And we are starting our program with this at the front end so that we can call ourselves out on our own bullshit. So that as those yeah buts come up, yeah but the cost, yeah but the time, yeah but my son has lacrosse practice and is wearing a mask, yeah but. So we can address the shit out of that so that you can get on with feeling well. And I'm so excited that Shyamala is involved in partnering with us and the Wild Collective across North America. Number 3, we have got, this is amazing, Adele Tevlin. She is offering a masterclass for us in January about cultivating your skilled mindset. She studies neuroprogramming, cognitive behavioral therapy, and she is heading a program for business people and CEOs around weight loss, and she is magic. We're doing this in January so that as we get waist deep in this curriculum and those New Year yeah buts come into place, she's gonna snap them out of you lovingly. And this would be worth $1,000. Honestly, I had just had an hour with her this week and she is just mind-blowing. I am so thrilled. And all of this if you sign up by midnight tonight. Our cart for the Sisterhood is going to be open for 2 weeks, but we reward fast-acting wild ones. So the link to sign up is right here. This will take you to our sales page to sign up. It is really straight ahead and you can read it at your leisure, but I really want you to take advantage of these bonuses because they're just going to add so much progress, so much to this experience for all of you, I promise. To join the instinctual nature means to establish territory, to find one's pack, to be in one's body with certainty and pride, regardless of our body's gifts and limitations. To speak and act in our own behalf, to be aware, alert, and revel in the innate feminine powers of intuition and sensing, to come into our cycles, to find what one belongs to rise with dignity, to retain as much consciousness as possible. This is it in a nutshell. We are talking about you getting to know you, to become 110% unapologetically you, regardless of the body or the family or the gifts or the limitations you are given, to rise because of those things, to really tap into your intuition, to figure out what makes you tick and what makes you so frigging fantastic, and then to do that and to be witness to that process for other women and to have them hold you and to support you during this. And this is a beautiful thing. And it should be a heck of a lot of fun. We will drop a lot of F-bombs, FYI. This is what we do. When we're real, we get real. The real miracle of individualization and reclamation of the wild woman is that we are all begin the process before we are ready, before we are strong enough, before we know enough. We begin a dialogue with thoughts and feelings that both tickle and thunder within us. This is about paying attention to those little sleeve tugging symptoms. This is about making time and space for those things. This is about making time and space for what fuels your soul so that you have space for what really lights you up. What if I really don't fit? I'm getting a question here. You will. All week I've been meditating on this, and I know that sounds what it sounds like, but I am holding space energetically for each and one of you. That there is a place for you in the Wild Collective. There is a place for each of you if you are ready, and if you are ready to transform, and I believe that you absolutely can and will, if you are ready to mother yourself a little bit and get in this direction so that we can really make sense for what fires us up. So when we begin to speak in our own voice, we start to take into account our own visions and our own values. We begin to be us. And when we cannot howl, when we cannot speak with our own voice, when we cannot know what's true for us, we won't find our pack. And now more than ever, we need to find our pack. We need to find our circles. We need to find our tribe, our collective, our crew of women that have our back, that are ready and willing to learn with us and are ready to see you set your life ablaze in the best, most beautiful way. Our mess is our message. The shit that happens to us helps to make us stronger. It is now our time to bloom. If you want to resummon the wild woman, we need to refuse to be captured. Sometimes that looks as tame as setting aside 2 hours a week or 2 hours a month to check in. But we need to claim this for ourselves. I'm going to share this picture here. This was the very first Wild Collective formerly known as the Rebel Tribe, offered by Dr. Paris several years ago. And in this session here, every single female that joined had a major life transformation. Some of them left careers that were unfulfilling. Some started new businesses and that launched like crazy. Some started side hustles. Some left relationships that were unfulfilling. Some started or mended relationships to be exactly what they needed. Others moved to be where it fit their soul. Others, they bloomed, they blossomed. And that's what I want for all of you, whatever that looks like. But we need to create that space for it. And we need to believe that you can create that space and that you can transform. It's time to find your collective and reclaim your wild. This is what we are about. So I'm seeing a ton of questions come up. I'm going to hang out and answer them. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me. This has been so much fun. I am so excited for each of you. This is going to be magic. This is going to be the things that I wish we all knew when we were handed a female body at a time when we're ready to hear it. So we have some questions here. This sounds amazing and terrifying. Yeah, it is. One of my business mentors said, if we start to do something that's in the right direction, we should be excited about it, but we should feel a little bit like we're going to vomit. And I'm not sure if you saw, but I have these lovely stress blotches on my skin. I am so excited about this, and I do slightly have that vomit feeling because I know this is what we need. This is what I need. This is what our community here in Stratford needs. We need women that are on fire and inspired. And we need to be around other women that are on fire and inspired. So, about this, each participant is partnered with someone else during this, and we're going to be rotating partners here and there. The goal is that you really get to know each other very, very well, but that we don't get too comfortable. So we're going to be mailing out or emailing out and in touch what your partnership matchups are going to be in advance when we settle in on our dates. What other questions do we have, ladies? Do you think benefits would cover this under a naturopath? I'm not sure. The most flexible benefits plans I see are health spending accounts, and they may cover this. And you'd have to check with your individual insurance provider. But I mean, it really works out to like $1.50, $1.60 a day. And we do have the monthly pay option if that makes life a little bit easier for you all. I'm getting some great feedbacks here. I'm doing better than I ever have. Addressing my health has allowed me to thrive in a way I didn't know was possible. I also have already an amazing sisterhood of girlfriends that I've known for 8 years, but I want to dive deeper. Is this still for someone like me? Oh, I got chills with that. Yes. This sisterhood, this collective is for you. Absolutely. If we have amazing partners, I have an amazing husband, but he's not going to be my everything. He's not going to be my best girlfriend. If you don't have an amazing partner, if you have girlfriends that have seen you through everything, amazing. They're still working through their own stuff. And they should be. What we are about as a collective is working through things with a directed focus. We are about high vibrational thinking. We are about improving and challenging and calling each other on our bullshit in the most loving, kind way possible. Because I know that when we are well, we are magic. So yes, this is for you. If you have positive women in your life, you need to invite them. So the thing is, I have spots for only 20 women right now. I think that's the limit of what we connect with virtually. And I'm holding space for 20. If we have more than that, this is a wonderful problem to have, and we will address it. I am absolutely available to talk some questions out privately, and I will absolutely message and get in touch with you. Someone else is saying this seems like mostly younger women. I'm 60 and already feel that I don't fit in. Oh my goodness, this is so good. When I decided to offer this in our area, I had in mind a vision of some women that are in their early 20s, others that are in their 30s, like me, 40s, 60s. I would so love a diverse age range because that's really where the magic is. I mean, we can learn so much from each other. One of the things that I found was most helpful growing up, my mom had this amazing sisterhood of just artists and happy freaks and musicians. And it was so liberating for me as a teen and early 20-something to just see how relaxed these women were and to learn and to live through their wisdom. On the other side, I see a lot of women that are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s as patients that are delighted that for the first time they're getting to know how their body works. And it's like they've uncovered this secret room decorated exactly as they want in their house that they never knew existed, because they can connect with themselves and with other women with young, fresh, vibrant energy. So this really is for women of all ages. It is not just about being postpartum or of a certain age or looking a certain way. I want a really rich diversity. That is what we are looking for. Okay, some more questions here. Got some great feedback. Are we able to take advantage of the extras if we choose the monthly pay option? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is about taking and rewarding fast actors, whether you pay up front or you do the monthly pay option. Someone's going to say, yeah, my partner's not going to be my best girlfriend. I love that. And I get it. Yeah, we need people in our life. We need people that get us. The energy of a sisterhood is so different than the energy of your partner that you're madly in love with or are kind of like meh about. And for hermits, yes, this is good. So many of us start to identify as extroverts and we are already going out and socializing, but we need to be aware of whether or not this is a healthy dynamic and the people that we're socializing with. But we also specifically designed this program for introverts and extroverts alike. I may seem a little bit loud, but I'm actually quite introverted myself. And like introverts, I do well in small amounts and then I need to retreat. And this program is perfect for that, where you get your socializing done, but with a purpose. It's not just aimless small talk that completely drains your battery. It's 2 hours and then you can check in with your partner throughout the month as it suits you, but you do need to check in and hold each other accountable. And this is designed for the introverts amongst us so that we don't completely wallflower the whole time and miss out. So this is designed for introverts and extroverts. Okay, I'm getting some sign me ups. I'm 62s. I'm all in. This is so exciting. I'm turning 60 soon. Had the same fear, but sign up anyways. Amazing. I am so grateful and honored that you are joining us. We want diversity. This opens up our eyes and our hearts. So, as we go back to summarize, this program is $497. We can do that up front in one payment, or we can do that monthly, $55 for 10 payments total. And if we sign up by midnight, we're going to have access to 3 bonuses. One being a session with me that's going to last, it's going to be about 110. I would value it, and we're going to work on your dumpster fire health concerns right away and hone in on your goals. Number 2, we're going to have a relationship boot camp 4-part class and master class with Dr. Shyamala Kiru in September to get your head on straight and to really support these relationships in your life. And we're going to have a session in January with Adele Tevlin to get your leadership, to get your mindset in place in the new year. All right. Any other questions here? Guys are just so amazing. You guys are so amazing. Oh, some beautiful comments. Keela has helped me get my dumpster fire down to a mere steam in a very short period of time. Yeah, that's what I love doing. That's what gets me up in the morning. And I think we can all thank you so much for that feedback. I think we can get so much better results too when we are working collectively as a team. So if anyone needs to get in touch with me afterwards, the best way to do that, I'm going to put my email directly in the chat box. You can get in touch with me that way. We have other questions. So the cart is going to stay open for 2 weeks. We are closing it down by the 26th of September at midnight. We are set to go for the 30th of September, and we are recording everything. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me, ladies. This has been so much fun. I'm so honored and overjoyed to see some of you guys signing up already. This is going to be massively impactful. This is going to be life-changing. This is going to be a shit ton of fun. All right. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. I'm loving these comments. All right. If that's it, I will see you all hopefully on the 30th. If this has resonated with any of you, please do let your girlfriends, your family members know, anyone that could benefit. We are doing 2 more recordings of this later on this week, and you will get notifications as well, so you can always forward that to somebody else that benefits. Yes, you can absolutely share this with anybody outside of the Stratford area. Because we are virtual, this is available to anybody, everybody, as long as we identify as female. There's so much that we can learn, and I am all about the virtual wild ones. Thank you so much for your comments, everybody. You guys are beautiful, wild creatures, and I'm so looking forward to getting started with you.